The peaceful ceremony shattered when gunshots erupted. The elves had already scaled the walls. Armed with long-barreled muskets crafted by Lin Tian, they effortlessly picked off the defending soldiers, including the scout. Lia couldn't contain her admiration. "These are far better than bows and arrows," she exclaimed. A thunderous boom echoed as the thick oak gate groaned under the impact. The reinforced battering ram, tipped with an iron spike, shattered it in a single strike. The goblins, cackling with glee, surged inside. Unlike their usual reckless rampages, these goblins moved with discipline. Clad in full plate armor, even the lowliest among them, they resembled an elite imperial force rather than a ragtag horde. The vast, untapped resources of the Great Tomb had allowed Lin Tian to equip them beyond anyone's expectations. Instead of looting and pillaging immediately, the goblins held back, obeying orders to secure the city first. Their heightened intelligence made controlling their savage instincts easier. Lin Tian, soaring on his wyvern, barked commands. "Destroy their major weapons first. Then regroup at my position." With a roar, he unleashed a torrent of dragonfire, reducing a ballista to ashes. The attack finally plunged Clint Castle into chaos. "Enemy attack! It's a dragon!" a soldier screamed, triggering panic. Civilians scrambled for shelter while guards rushed to form defensive lines. On the platform, Avril remained composed. "Stay calm! All civilians, head to the shelters. Soldiers, prepare to engage," she ordered. White Hat Clint's expression darkened. "How dare they disrupt my granddaughter's succession?" he hissed. "Continue the ceremony. I will deal with this." The soldiers hesitated, glancing at Avril. Though the Elder Lord had spoken, she was now their rightful ruler, and her command took precedence. Avril bowed respectfully to her grandfather. "Thank you," she said calmly. "Let the ceremony continue. Today remains my birthday, and I will distribute food and gifts to everyone in the Clint family's name." However, when Clint stepped outside the castle and surveyed the city from a high vantage point, his blood ran cold. Something was terribly wrong. A massive goblin army was silently advancing through the streets. The southern gate had already been breached, yet inside the castle, the noise of celebration had drowned out the sounds of battle. "All soldiers, to arms!" Clint bellowed, abandoning all concern for the wyvern. "Goblin invasion!" From atop his wyvern, Lin Tian studied the white-hatted mage. His system identified Clint's combat power at 3,900, impressive, though likely higher in his prime. Even Avril, the young new city lord, boasted a strength of 3,500. No wonder she had secured her position. Hearing Clint's warning, Avril paused in surprise. "Goblins?" she called to her troops. "Disperse these vermin quickly, then return for the festivities." The gathered citizens relaxed. Goblins were nothing to fear, certainly not compared to a dragon. Soldiers mobilized, splitting into units to secure different streets. Meanwhile, Lin Tian had already destroyed the city's heavy weaponry. His goblins now massed in the streets below. As enemy troops advanced, he gave the order. "Attack!" Go Bukwang roared, hurling fireballs to block one street before leading a crushing charge. It made no difference. The slaughter had begun. Clint's gaze locked onto Lin Tian. "A goblin, controlling a dragon?" he muttered. "So you're the one who brought down the sword Saintus?" Lin Tian smirked. "My reputation precedes me, it seems." He kept his wyvern circling Clint, ensuring the mage couldn't intervene below. Magic was devastating. One spell could wipe out his entire force. Clint's eyes darkened. "Clever. Distract me to protect your filth. But have you considered the cost?" He raised a glowing white crystal. "Your life." The incantation rolled out like thunder. "Super-tier magic, meteor from beyond." The sky trembled. A massive meteor, wreathed in flames, hurtled toward Lin Tian with terrifying precision. Clint's lips curled. Homing spells couldn't be dodged, only endured or outrun. Lin Tian didn't panic. Wheeling his wyvern, he streaked toward the castle. As long as Clint maintained the spell, he couldn't cast another. Run all you like, Clin sneered. Killing this goblin would make him a legend, the one who avenged the Empire's greatest shame. Lin Tian urged Xiao Huan to move faster as the scorching heat from the meteor closed in behind them, threatening to strike at any moment. With a cold smile, he glanced at the distant castle and its inhabitants, declaring he had a big gift for them before signaling Xiao Huan to dive downward. Panic erupted among the residents as they spotted the dragon and the massive meteor trailing behind it. Screams filled the air. Some cried out about the dragon, while others warned of the even deadlier meteor. Desperate to escape, they scrambled in every direction, but there was nowhere safe to run. A meteor of that size would obliterate everything within 100 meters upon impact. Just before they hit the ground, Lin Tian reminded Xiao Huan of his earlier lesson. The dragon roared, unleashing a burst of flames downward to create a nitrogen break, abruptly slowing their descent. With a powerful flap of its wings, Xiao Huan narrowly avoided the meteor's path.
Not good. From atop the city wall, Avril spotted the incoming meteor and immediately retrieved a purple spherical magic crystal. Without hesitation, she invoked Super Tier Magic Space Rift. A series of sharp cracks echoed as space itself split apart. A dark, gaping rift materialized before the meteor, swallowing it whole. Wiping the glistening sweat from her brow, Avril turned to look for Lin Tian only to find he had already vanished. Having failed in his initial plan, Lin Tian swiftly retreated to prevent Clin from launching an attack on the goblin army. Clin, stunned to see him unharmed, blurted out in disbelief, "Impossible. Where is my meteor?" There had been no explosion, no trace, just inexplicable disappearance. Lin Tian responded irritably, remarking that Clin's granddaughter was indeed formidable, otherwise, the castle would have been reduced to ashes. Just then, a desperate cry rang out from behind. A severely wounded commander, clutching a mangled arm, staggered back as his soldiers fell one after another trying to protect him. "Lord Clin! We can't hold on much longer. Please help!" Seeing the dire situation, Clin could no longer focus on Lin Tian. He quickly began chanting a healing spell, Super Tier Magic Earth Nourishment. This was exactly what Lin Tian had been waiting for. Seizing the opportunity, he activated his elemental hand crossbow at maximum firepower. Whoosh! A gust of fire shot toward Clin. Realizing the danger, Clin was forced to abandon his spell, barely deflecting the attack with a hastily conjured shield. Furious, he snarled through gritted teeth, "Damn goblin! If you want to fight, then fight fair. No tricks." Lin Tian merely shrugged, feigning innocence. He retorted that moral accusations were pointless as goblins had no morals to begin with. With no other choice, Clin clenched his jaw and ordered a retreat. Continuing the battle would mean annihilation. Falling back to the castle would allow them to regroup and fight more effectively. As for the remaining civilians who hadn't reached the shelters, their survival would depend on fate. "Retreat," the commander bellowed. At this point, rank no longer mattered, survival was all that counted. Inside Clin Castle, thousands of terrified residents huddled in the square, watching their soldiers return in disarray. The sight filled them with dread. If the soldiers had retreated this far, it meant Clin Castle was on the brink of collapse. The soldiers' commander was nearly broken. "Are these really goblins?" he muttered in disbelief. "They're an elite force, fully armored, wielding iron weapons. Their high-tier warriors are unstoppable. We lost 3,000 men, while they only lost a few hundred, and they outnumber us 2 or 3 to 1. His words deepened the residents' fear. They stood frozen, unsure of what to do. A murmur spread through the crowd, "If only the Sword Saintess were here." But the speaker quickly fell silent. Then, a young yet confident voice cut through the tension. "Everyone, have you forgotten my promise?" Avril declared. "The Clin family will stand at the forefront. We will protect you." She appeared on the city wall, flanked by the Clin family mages. "With us here," she continued with a reassuring smile, "this place will be an impenetrable fortress. No enemy will breach these walls." "Right, Grandpa?" Clin joined her on the wall, proclaiming boldly, "As long as we stand here, those goblins won't dare come closer." An impenetrable fortress? Lin Tian scoffed. To him, a fortress that couldn't be breached wasn't worth attacking. He thrived on exploiting weakness. Why challenge the strong when you can crush the weak? What kind of logic was that? Suddenly, fireballs rained from the sky. Even the armored goblins couldn't withstand the scorching heat. Lightning crackled, explosions erupted, a devastating magical assault had begun. Lin Tian frowned and immediately ordered, "Gobu Kwang, retreat." Only a handful of goblins escaped. Lin Tian, perched safely on his flying dragon, responded coldly, "I didn't want to do this, but you've left me no choice." "Humph. And what if I have?" Avril interjected, her face alight with pride and disdain. She turned to her grandfather. "Grandpa, who is that speaking?" She could see the dragon but not its rider. Clin didn't explain, only saying, "That's the one who defeated the Sword Saintess." Avril's lips curled into a smirk. "So, if I defeat him, does that mean I'm stronger than the Sword Saintess?" Lin Tian's eyes darkened, a chilling aura radiating from him. Without another word, he turned and commanded, "Follow me. The rest stay here." He led Gobu Kwang, Gobu Tian, Gobu Shan, and dozens of hero variants toward the sanctuary. In the castle square, a resident nervously pointed out that the intruders weren't heading toward the castle. Lord Avril, however, reassured them, stating confidently that the sanctuary's magical barrier would hold. Outside the sanctuary, Gobu Kwang stepped forward, ordering the others to retreat. Activating his high-pressure domain, the air around him vibrated violently. Seconds turned to minutes as the ground cracked under the mounting pressure. Finally, then, with a sharp snap, the entire barrier shattered. The principle was simple: fight magic with magic. The barrier, though hard as tempered glass, had a critical weakness: concentrated force on a single point. Once compromised, it collapsed entirely. Soon, Clin's expression darkened as he realized the barrier was failing. Now, only a wooden door stood between them and their prey. As the door creaked open, terrified faces stared back, wide-eyed, trembling, breaths ragged with fear. Desperate parents clutched their children, shielding them from the horror. While Lin Tian observed the chaos with icy detachment.